Hello my friends, it's Laura. Today we are going to wrap up all of the books that I read in the month of February. I read a total of 13 books this month, a lot of romance, one very large disappointment, a reread, a horror. It's been an interesting month. So let's get into it. Some of these books have completely left my mind at this point. So if I can't give you proper summaries for some of these, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna go in the order in which I read them. Also, we are in my dining room today where my main bookshelves are. Just switching it up a little bit. But let us start with the first book I finished in February, which was The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. This is one of the ones that have completely left my mind, but I'm gonna try to give you a summary. So this takes place in a small little town that is very witchy. They're like very big on Halloween. It's very atmospheric, the little town. I really liked, like, our main character's aunt owns this little witch shop, occult shop type thing, which is really cute. Anyway, we are following Vivi, I can't remember names. And she is a witch. And 9 years ago, she had her heart broken by this guy named Reese. And her cousin decide to like put a hex on him, but it's totally a joke. Like, they don't actually mean it, except 9 years later, Reese comes back into town because he's like one of the founding families of the town. And so he has to come back to renew the magic. So he comes back into town. It's immediately apparent that he's been cursed because things keep going wrong. Like, he almost gets run over, a statue almost fell on him, like things like that. And then he tries to renew the magic of the town and things go horribly wrong. So not only is he cursed and realizing that he's cursed, but the curse has now spread to the entire town. So Reese and Vivi have to work together in order to find a way to break the curse. And the story goes from there. And it's kind of like a second chance romance, obviously, because he is her former ex. It was fine. Like, there was a couple of times where I hee-heed, you know, a little laugh. A couple of times that I thought were really cute. Like I said, like the whole atmosphere of the town and the store. But as far as them individually as characters and their relationship together, I couldn't care less. It just felt, I don't know, I didn't feel any chemistry. I didn't really feel anything, but this book didn't do anything wrong. I thought it was really well written. I thought it was good. So I gave it 3 stars. Not an all-time new favorite. I probably won't continue with this series. I don't think I've read anything by Erin Sterling / Rachel Hawkins before, and I don't know that I really care to in the future. So that's how that one went. I then read my first 5-star of the month, which was The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich by Dea Muniz. This was so adorable. This is a graphic novel. The artwork is just so cute and so fun, but this is a very punny romance that takes place in this kingdom where literally everything is named after cheese. Like the princess, her name is Princess Brie. She has a best friend named Ricotta. It's adorable. It really is. So our main character, Lady Camembert, wants to live life on her own terms, but her father is determined to marry her off because he's really sick, he's about to die, and in this world, a woman cannot inherit unless she's married. So he's worried about her being completely destitute, and she's told him, look, I don't like men, I don't want to marry a man. And he's like, I understand that, and that's valid, but I'm worried about you, and I want you to have a secure future when I'm gone. So either you marry a man or you become a man. Like, live as a man, move to a town where no one knows you, live a very solitary life, but at least you'll be secure. So she does that. She goes from being Lady Camembert to being Count Camembert, and she moves to the capital, but again lives very quietly. But one day decides to go out and have some fun. She goes to this ball and she meets the Princess Brie, and the two of them develop feelings for each other, all while Lady Camembert is trying to keep her identity secret. So this was so much fun. It's just cute and silly and ridiculous and funny. I laughed. I cried because it was so beautiful at the end. The artwork's like, this is just so good. It's so cute and so much fun, and I highly, highly recommend it. I loved all of the cheese puns. The two characters bond over grilled cheese sandwiches because that's their favorite food. Like, it's a lot of fun. Very cheesy in more ways than one, but also had very good messaging and themes, and you know, showed one of our characters, Princess Bree, like coming to terms with her own sexuality, and it was a good time. I really liked it. I also liked the author's note in the back and how this was based on kind of their relationship with their wife, and it was beautiful. So highly recommend, gave it 5 stars. And I had 3 5-star books in a row. So after that one, I read Do Your Worst by Rosie Danan. I am now obsessed and need to read everything by Rosie Danan. This was so much fun. In this, we're following Riley. Riley is an occult expert. She specifically is a curse breaker, and she gets hired to go to this infamous Scottish castle where there has been a curse on it for centuries. She's hired to break this curse. Meanwhile, we're also following Clark, who is a archaeologist, kind of disgraced because of some drama that happened in the past, and he's been hired to also work at this castle to try and find historical artifacts so that they can legitimize this site as a historical site. And so they actually end up meeting the night before they're supposed to start working at the castle, not knowing who each other are. They kind of, do a little flirting, share a little kiss, and then the next day find out that they're working together. He immediately tries to illegitimize her and her business and calls her a scammer and tries to like get her fired, okay? Because he doesn't believe in the occult. Because of that, she's rightfully very upset, and they instantly become enemies, okay? So we have like this rivals, enemies to lovers, also forced proximity because they're forced to work together in this castle, and things just go from there. It's so much fun. Honestly, besides the romance aspect of this, I would gladly read an entire series of Riley going around breaking curses at different locations, because this was so, like, the magic of it was so much fun and interesting. I loved how she worked out the curse, like how scientifically minded she was, and all of the places that it took her, the ways, like the way her particular magic works, because she's able to smell magic. I just loved the idea and the concept of that. That was so much fun. But also the two of them are working together and like constantly trying to not one up each other. What's the word I'm looking for? They're constantly trying to get in each other's way because they each want the other one to like get fed up and leave, but both of them are very stubborn. They're also really attracted to each other at the same time as like really hating each other. So like the sexual tension is so good. It's so good. And the scenes, the spicy scenes, are some of the best that I have read so far in my romance journey, okay? The best. And I ate this up. I didn't want to put it down. It was so, I legitimately laughed out loud. Like, this is an actual true rom-com, but it does have some deeper moments as well. There's strained family relationships and grief that each of them are working through, that they help each other work through. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It was the perfect balance of everything, of spice, of actual romance, of lighthearted funniness, and also just like deep emotions. So 5 stars. Oh my goodness. One of my best romances of the year, for sure. Like I said, need to read more by Rosie Danan, and I definitely think I need to find more romance like this. Magical, speculative element in with the romance, but not necessarily paranormal romance, if you know what I mean. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. The next 5-star read I had was a YA romance, and this is Didn't See That Coming by Jessica Sutanto. You guys know I love Jessica Sutanto. Love everything she does. YA is no different. Incredibly hilarious. Maybe not as hilarious as some of the other things that she's written, but there was a lot of heavy topics in here for sure. We're following our main character Kiki, who gets moved to a new school. She is a gamer girl. She is really into this online game, and when she first started playing it as a girl, she got so much hate, so many like rape threats and death threats and just ridiculous harassment. And so she decides, you know what, I'm gonna pretend to be a boy online. I'm gonna find, you know, create the most dude bro name that I think her name is dude bro that she can, you know, online name that she can come up with, present as a boy, and the harassment magically stops. Isn't that funny? She develops this very close friendship with another guy online that for her is turning into something a little bit more. She's kind of crushing on her online friend. And then she ends up going to this new school, finds out that her online friend that she's kind of crushing on goes to that school. And so it turns into a whole thing. And it's not just about the romance between the two of them. It's about Kiki. It's almost like this coming of age, but after everything that she's been through online, at this new, very traditional school, is faced with so much misogyny and sexism and bullying, really bad bullying, to the point where she gets, like, just as an example, she is getting bullied, right? She goes to the principal, she's telling the principal of the school, I am being bullied by this boy who happens to be, of course, like the star pupil of the school. The principal actually calls her crazy. And it's just so disgusting. And I loved seeing that theme, and also just like the online harassment thing that girls face in the gaming sphere, because that is very true and very rampant. And it was so much fun getting to see Kiki like grow into herself and stand up for herself and fight against these things. I loved this. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Like I said, it was hilarious, but also very deep, dealing with very, you know, serious, heavy topics, and very emotional. And the romance was adorable. They were so cute together. I really didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I didn't know if a YA from Jessie was gonna be the same as her adult, but it was absolutely 5 stars. It was incredible. So highly recommend. I've realized after reading this that this is while reading this, I should say, this is the second book in a series, which is not a huge deal, but I definitely want to go back and read the first one. Okay, and then here's where things go downhill. So I read Kiss Me Mamore by Alana Quintana Albertson, and I gave it 2 stars. This was not good, although I do like some of the themes and things going on in here. I don't even know how to like summarize this because it's so complicated how it first gets started. There's kind of like this fake dating aspect, but it's really not fake dating because that lasts for about 5 minutes. But we're following Carolina and Enrique. And Carolina is 23. She is the daughter of farm workers, comes from this very traditional religious Mexican family. So when I say traditional, I'm talking she is not allowed to date unless the man who wants to date her asks her father for permission and gets it. She's not allowed to go on unsupervised dates. She has to be chaperoned. She is not allowed to leave the house and, you know, and get her own place until she's married. It's very traditional. And I loved seeing that representation because not only have I literally never seen it in a book before, but I also, that was my life. This is me. Like, I grew up in a very traditional, very religious family. And so I felt what she was going through. I also felt her like need to break free from that, and Enrique becomes kind of like the catalyst for her to break free from the honestly abuse that she's been experiencing in this kind of household. So he is interested in her originally as a business not partner, but like he wants to learn from her. He sets up a meeting because she has kind of revolutionized the game as far as farming is concerned. Not only is she paying her farmers an actual living wage, but she's making sure that they have access to healthcare. She is making sure that they are treated decently and fairly, surprise, surprise, which I loved the conversations on farm workers in here, especially when it comes to Mexican farm workers, undocumented farm workers who are historically have been mistreated, taken advantage of, paid an unlivable wage, don't have access to healthcare, that are also working under terrible working conditions with pesticides that are destroying their lungs. And it's horrible and it needs to fucking stop. But I loved the themes, like what the author had to say about that, and I liked that our main character was someone who was very passionate about this subject and who was doing something to better the situation. But she's also revolutionized farming as far as like her hydroponics and stuff like that. So Enrique is very interested in learning more from her, sets up a meeting with her and thinks she accepts, only to get to the farm and she not knowing why he's there, and it's because her sister accepted the meeting for her without telling her. Okay, so they end up, like, through ridiculous circumstances, kind of fake dating. Like I said, it lasts 5 minutes and then they're really dating, and she kind of realizes at this point that she wants something different from her life than what she's been getting, and so she kind of leaves her family and is not invited back because she spent the night with a man. My main issue with this is that it should not have been a romance. This should have been like a coming of age. This should have been women's fiction. This should have been not a romance. Our main character, Carolina, is 23, like I said. She's a virgin. She's literally never even kissed a man. This is the first man that she's had any kind of relationship with that happens extremely quickly. They spend a night together and she declares her love for him, and like, it just was reinforcing this idea that she is very naive. And honestly, she was very naive because she came from such a sheltered situation and is now just coming into the world. She should not have been anywhere near a relationship. Not only that, but she's moving from a very strict, very like controlling relationship with that of her father to another man who is also controlling and manipulative. And I don't understand why the author thought that it was okay, like that this should have been a romance, when even though Enrique is saying all of the right things, he is also very controlling and manipulative. He's known as this like rich playboy type. And he is, you know, taking her to fancy hotels and fancy dinners and like swooping her away and like telling her what she, for example, she makes it very clear that she does not want children, right? And so he says to her, meanwhile, he's like a little bit older than her. She's 23, he's 28 or something. And he says to her, oh, but you're young. You'll change your mind. Like, no, no. So like, he was being manipulative and controlling, and I did not buy the romance. On her part, yes, because this is literally the first man she's ever been with, and again, she is very naive. She's written very naively. Where is the romance? Like, where is it? It just felt icky to me. It felt wrong and gross, and I didn't like it. So I gave it 2 stars, but at the same time, I appreciate this book for actually giving that representation because, again, I've never seen it before. Very similar to the way I grew up, if not exactly. 2 stars for this. This is another one where, as I was reading, I realized this is the second book in a romance series. I will not be reading the first one. I didn't like this. And it wasn't that the writing was bad, it was just the whole situation was bad and should not have been shown as something that is good and romantic, because it wasn't. So 2 stars. Okay, after that one, I had one of my favorite books of the year. I've talked about this a couple times now in other videos, but Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I read this, I loved it so much. This is Ali Hazelwood's paranormal romance following Misery, who is a vampire. For political reasons, she was taken as a very young child to live in the human world as kind of like this sacrifice to keep the peace between humans and vampires. They send a vampire collateral, and the humans send a human collateral to the vampire world. So she feels all but abandoned by her people, but while she was living in the human world, she had like this adopted sister who became her best friend and sister in truth. And the two of them have so much love for each other, but she ends up going missing. Meanwhile, this is years later now, she's an adult. Her father comes to her and is like, I need you to marry a werewolf. For political reasons, they're trying to establish a peace between the vampires and the werewolves because vampires and werewolves have been mortal enemies since the beginning of time. So they're trying to establish peace, and the way they're gonna do it is by marrying her, a vampire, off to the werewolf. And at first she's like, hell no, I've sacrificed enough for this family and for my people, until she hears his name and she realizes that he might be a clue or a suspect in the disappearance of her friend. So she goes, she marries this werewolf. It turns into this incredible slow burn romance with found family aspects that I did not expect to be in here. The werewolf's name is Lo, and Lo has a little sister named Anna, and Anna is the most adorable little girl ever. She's a big part of the story. She made everything so good, like just the way she attaches herself to Misery, who by the way hates kids, but ends up developing this soft spot for Anna, and the family that they all create is just so beautiful, especially since Misery is someone who has never really felt at home anywhere. Because remember, she's a vampire who was forced to live in the human world for so long amongst people that absolutely despised her. So she's never really had a home with humans, but then when she goes to live back in the vampire world, the vampires don't like her because she's spent so much time with humans. And so she's never really fit in anywhere until she, of all places, ends up in the werewolf world and fits in there and finds a family, and it's so beautiful. Misery is the best character that Ali Hazelwood has ever written. She is so funny. She has a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor. She's very stoic. She doesn't smile, but at the same time, she's always cracking ridiculous jokes because that's just how that's her armor. That's how she deals with her situation. That's how she deals with the world. I loved Misery. I loved Anna. I loved Lo. We don't get his POV, but at the beginning of every chapter, we do get like a couple sentences that give us a little bit of insight into how he's feeling and what he's thinking during all of this. So I liked that. This was perfect. I have no notes. There was literally nothing about this that I didn't like. 5 stars, favorite of the year. Like, Bride is hands down Ali Hazelwood's best book. So good, so good. I know it's really popular, but like if you were a little on the fence about reading it, a little iffy about it, definitely pick it up. I then did a buddy read with Angela from Literature Science Alliance, and we read The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. I read it for the first time. It was a reread for her, and I loved this. Like, N.K. Jemisin's mind and the way it works is just so interesting. I don't even know how to explain what this is about because I don't want to give anything away. Let me look at the synopsis. Okay, so we're following Yena, and Yena is one day summoned to the court of Sky, where her grandfather rules all of the world, and with the help of enslaved gods. So we have gods in here, and you know how I feel about gods in fantasy. Anyway, she gets called and named heir to the king, her grandfather. But there's already 2 other heirs, and she has to kind of battle it out between the other 2 heirs, her cousins, until one is left standing and inherits the kingdom. And really, I don't think I can say anything else than that. It's political, there's vicious power struggles, there's gods and interesting magic, and our main character, Yena, is thrust into the middle of all of it, not knowing how to navigate this world, and has to just figure it out. The first third of this book was incredible because it was so intriguing. Like, my intrigue level was up to here. I needed to know what was happening. I had so many questions. Why is this way? Like, why are the gods doing this? And it was like I was burning for answers. But then within that first third of the book, we get the answer, like a major reveal. And I'm like, oh, okay, that literally answers all of the questions that I had. So where the hell is the story gonna go from here? And then the second third is mostly political machinations, court politics, intrigue, trying to make alliances and get one up on her cousin so that she can actually come out of this contest alive, which I didn't enjoy as much as the first third, but then the last third of the book is incredible, beyond 5 stars. Like, so good. And it has, I can't even talk about it because it's spoilers, but it has a thing that it does that I absolutely love seeing in fantasy. I can tell you that it does like humanize the gods in a way that I really like in fantasy, where the gods are not only involved in the humans' lives and politics, but they show very human emotion. And there's lots of questions that arise in here about redemption and how far can someone go before it's too late to offer forgiveness, or before they can't ever be redeemed. And just so much. It was one of the most unique worlds, honestly, that I've ever seen. And I really liked how everything was done. I loved the magic. I loved Yena as a main character, and just seeing her from where she started out to where she ended up. Brilliant. Brilliant. I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars because that middle part of the book was a little, and it wasn't that it was uninteresting, it just wasn't it kind of lulled for me. I couldn't give it a full 5 star, but I think this could be a 5-star series for me. So I'm really excited to pick up the second book probably in March and give that a read. But yeah, this was so good. Definitely recommend. 4.5 stars. And the buddy read just made it even more fun. Then I reread House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, the first book in the Crescent City series, because I wanted to read House of Flame and Shadow, started reading it, realized I need a refresher, and ended up just having to reread. So I reread this first book. I was kind of nervous as to whether or not I was going to enjoy this the second time around, because there's always so many factors that go into loving a book at the time, right? It could be the time you read it, your experiences and circumstances at the time, and I was worried that I wouldn't appreciate it this time around, or I wouldn't love it as much, but I absolutely did. I got to the end of this book and I was just bawling, and you know why if you've read it. That part hit me harder than I remember it hitting me the first time, okay? It was so beautiful. 5 stars. I'm very excited to continue on with the series, continue with my reread into House of Sky and Breath. That's the second one, right? House of Sky and Breath? Okay. The last 5 books that I read in February, I did a reading vlog for, which hopefully has gone out before this wrap up. So I'm not gonna talk about these, I'm just gonna show them. Are the 5 books that I read in that vlog. So if you wanna hear my full thoughts, check out that vlog. But this was 5-star, all-time new favorite, and one of my favorites of the year. Eva Evergreen, which not only did I talk about in that vlog, but there's also a live show that you can check out on my channel where we talked about this, 3 stars. A Tempest of Tea, which is my biggest disappointment so far of the year, and probably will be my biggest disappointment of the year. I gave this 2 stars. I talk about, like, I go in that vlog as to all of the reasons I didn't like this, so check out that vlog for my full thoughts. Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood, which I gave 2 stars. I really didn't like it. And Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Shauna McGuire, which was another 5-star. Absolutely love this series. So that, my friends, is my February wrap up. I had a lot of good reads. So talk to me down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Let me know if you have read any of these and what you thought of them. Also, let me know if you want to pick up any of them now that I've talked about them. If you want to let me know you were here but you don't have anything to say, leave me some star emojis. But that is going to be it from me today. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.